What if the strange things happening in your life lately are not coincidences at all? What if God has been trying to speak to you, but you keep mistaking his voice for stress, emotions, or random events? There are people watching this right now who feel a shift happening inside them. You cannot explain it. Certain sins no longer satisfy you. Certain people suddenly feel distant. You keep seeing the same messages everywhere, and deep down, you feel like something spiritual is happening around your life. But here is the scary part. Many people miss the voice of God because they are waiting for a miracle while ignoring the signs he is already sending. In this video, I am going to reveal 5 powerful signs God may already be talking to you right now. And one of these signs could completely expose what heaven is trying to tell you in this season. So do not skip this video, because the message you are about to hear may not be an accident. One of the first ways God begins speaking to a person is through deep inner conviction. And no, conviction is not the same thing as condemnation. Condemnation tells you that you are hopeless. Conviction tells you that you were created for more. There are people listening to this right now who have noticed a battle happening inside them lately. You try to enjoy certain sins the way you used to, but something inside you refuses to feel comfortable anymore. The gossip does not feel right anymore. The lust no longer satisfies you the same way. The toxic relationship that once excited you now leaves your spirit feeling drained and heavy. And every time you try to ignore it, that quiet voice keeps returning again and again, saying, "This is not who you are. That is not weakness. That is not random emotion." Many times, that is God trying to wake up your spirit before your destruction reaches you. Because when God has a calling on your life, he will not allow you to remain comfortable in the things that are slowly killing your soul. Some people think God speaking always feels peaceful, but sometimes his voice feels like a holy disturbance inside your spirit. He begins exposing the very thing standing between you and your purpose. And the dangerous part is this: the longer a person ignores conviction, the easier it becomes to silence their spiritual sensitivity. Eventually, people stop feeling bad, stop resisting sin, stop seeking God, and their hearts slowly become numb. But if you still feel conviction today, that means something powerful. God has not given up on you. The fact you still feel the struggle inside is proof that heaven is still calling your name. And maybe the discomfort you have been trying to escape lately is actually the mercy of God trying to pull you back before it is too late. One of the most overlooked ways God speaks to people is through spiritual peace, or the sudden absence of it. There are moments in life when everything on the outside looks perfect, yet something deep inside you feels unsettled. The opportunity looks good. The relationship seems attractive. The door appears wide open. Everyone around you says, "Go for it." But your spirit feels heavy, disturbed, uncomfortable, and you cannot fully explain why. Then there are other moments when nothing makes logical sense at all. The path ahead looks uncertain. The outcome is unclear. Yet somehow, deep inside, you feel calm. There is a quiet peace resting over your spirit that cannot be explained by human understanding. Many times, that is God trying to guide you. Because not every blessing comes with noise, and not every dangerous thing looks evil in the beginning. Some traps arrive wrapped like opportunities. Some distractions appear disguised as answers to prayer. And this is why spiritual discernment matters so much. God often warns people internally before problems ever appear externally. But the tragedy is that many people ignore that inner warning because they are desperate. Desperate for love, desperate for success, desperate to escape loneliness. So they silence the voice of discernment just to hold on to something they secretly know is wrong for them. And later they wonder why everything fell apart. There are people watching this right now who have been feeling a strange heaviness every time they think about a certain decision. Every time you move toward it, your spirit becomes troubled. Your peace disappears. Your heart feels restless. That may not be fear. That may be God protecting you from pain you cannot yet see. And on the other side, some of you have been afraid to walk through a door God is opening because it does not make sense to your mind. But despite the uncertainty, there is peace in your spirit. a calmness that keeps pulling you forward. Understand this carefully. God does not always shout directions from heaven. Sometimes he guides through peace. Sometimes he speaks through restraint. Sometimes the warning is not audible, it is spiritual. And if you ignore that inner leading long enough, you can walk yourself straight into battles God was trying to save you from. But when you learn to pay attention to spiritual peace and spiritual heaviness, you begin developing discernment. And discernment can protect your destiny from decisions that look good to the eyes, but are dangerous for the soul. One of the clearest signs God is speaking to you is when he begins disturbing the life you once felt comfortable living. Suddenly, things that used to excite you no longer satisfy you. Places you once loved now feel empty. Conversations that once entertained you now drain your spirit. You start feeling disconnected from environments, habits, and even people that used to feel normal to you. And the confusing part is, you cannot fully explain why. It feels like something inside you is changing. Many people mistake this season for depression, failure, or isolation, when in reality it may be spiritual transformation beginning to take place. Because before God leads a person into a new season, he often makes them uncomfortable in the old one. He starts breaking attachments, shifting desires, removing distractions. And sometimes the process feels painful because growth always requires separation from something familiar. There are people watching this right now who have been frustrated because life feels unstable lately. Doors are closing, certain friendships are fading, opportunities are disappearing, nothing feels secure anymore. But what if this disturbance is not punishment? What if God is removing what cannot go where he is taking you? Sometimes God speaks through disruption because comfort can become the greatest enemy of calling. If everything stayed easy, many people would never move. They would stay trapped in cycles that slowly destroy their purpose while convincing themselves they are fine. So God allows shaking, not to break you, but to wake you up. Some of the hardest seasons of your life may actually be evidence that heaven is redirecting your path. And the dangerous mistake many people make is running back to what God is trying to pull them out of. They return to toxic environments because change feels uncomfortable. They reconnect with the same people God separated them from. They chase old habits because spiritual growth feels unfamiliar. But every time you force yourself back into what God is removing you from, your soul becomes more restless. Because once God opens your eyes spiritually, you can never fully enjoy darkness the same way again. And maybe that discomfort you feel lately is not your life falling apart. Maybe it is God rearranging your future. Maybe the shaking is preparation. Maybe the loneliness is separation for elevation. Maybe heaven is clearing space for the person you are becoming. Because sometimes before God gives direction, he first destroys your attachment to the place you were never meant to stay. They're closing. Certain friendships are fading. Opportunities are disappearing. Nothing feels secure anymore. But what if this disturbance is not punishment? What if God is removing what cannot go where he is taking you? Sometimes God speaks through disruption because comfort can become the greatest enemy of calling. If everything stayed easy, many people would never move. They would stay trapped in cycles that slowly destroy their purpose while convincing themselves they are fine. So God allows shaking, not to break you but to wake you up. Some of the hardest seasons of your life may actually be evidence that heaven is redirecting your path. And the dangerous mistake many people make is running back to what God is trying to pull them out of. They return to toxic environments because change feels uncomfortable. They reconnect with the same people God separated them from. They chase old habits because spiritual growth feels unfamiliar. But every time you force yourself back into what God is removing you from, your soul becomes more restless. Because once God opens your eyes spiritually, you can never fully enjoy darkness the same way again. And maybe that discomfort you feel lately is not your life falling apart. Maybe it is God rearranging your future. Maybe the shaking is preparation. Maybe the loneliness is separation for elevation. Maybe heaven is clearing space for the person you are becoming. Because sometimes before God gives direction, He first destroys your attachment to the place you were never meant to stay. The final sign God is speaking to you is one of the deepest and most powerful experiences a person can have. You cannot escape the feeling that God is pulling you closer to Him. No matter how far you run, no matter how distracted you become, no matter how many mistakes you make, something inside you keeps longing for God again. You try to fill the emptiness with entertainment, relationships, money, social media, success, or temporary pleasure, but nothing fully satisfies your soul anymore. The things that once distracted you now feel empty after a few moments. The excitement fades quickly. The noise stops working. And when you are finally alone at night, there is still a deep hunger inside your spirit that the world cannot touch. That feeling is not random. That is often the voice of God drawing you back before your heart becomes completely lost in this world. Some of you watching this have been feeling emotionally exhausted lately, not because life is hard, but because your soul is starving for God while your flesh keeps searching everywhere else for peace. And the reason you cannot fully enjoy living far from God anymore is because heaven has marked your spirit for something deeper. There are people who can sin without feeling anything. People who can live disconnected from God for years without conviction. But you are struggling because God will not leave you comfortable in distance. He keeps pulling at your heart, through sermons, through pain, through sleepless nights, through unanswered prayers, through moments of loneliness where you suddenly feel the urge to pray again. And maybe you thought it was just emotion. Maybe you thought you were overthinking. But what if this entire season has been God calling your name? Understand this carefully. When God wants someone closer, He often allows the world to stop satisfying them. The very things you depended on begin losing their power because your soul was never created to survive without His presence. That emptiness you feel may actually be spiritual hunger, and spiritual hunger is dangerous to ignore because the longer people avoid God, the more they try to numb themselves with temporary things that slowly destroy them from the inside. But the beautiful part is this. If you still feel the desire to seek God, it means He is still reaching for you. It means your story is not finished, because people who are truly abandoned spiritually no longer care about God at all. But you still feel the pull, you still feel the conviction, you still feel the longing, and maybe that longing itself is proof that God has been speaking to you this entire time, waiting for you to finally listen. So now the question becomes, are you listening? Because God may already be speaking to you through the conviction you keep trying to ignore, through the message that keeps appearing everywhere you go, through the peace you cannot explain, through the disturbance that has been changing your life, and through the spiritual hunger growing inside your soul. The mistake many people make is waiting for some dramatic sign from heaven while ignoring the quiet voice of God, already calling their name every single day. Some people spend years praying for direction, asking God to show them the next step, while refusing to obey the last instruction He already placed in their spirit. But tonight, you can choose differently. You can stop running from what you know deep down. You can stop delaying the change God has been calling you toward. You can stop drowning His voice with endless distractions, noise, entertainment, and temporary pleasures that leave your soul emptier than before. And maybe for the first time in a very long time, you can become still enough to truly hear Him clearly. Because one moment of genuine obedience to God can completely change the direction of your life forever. One decision can open doors you never imagined. One surrender can save you from years of pain. And if God has been speaking to you lately, do not ignore Him. He may be trying to protect you from something dangerous you cannot yet see. Or He may be preparing to lead you into a purpose greater than anything you ever imagined possible.